Emma strolled through Oakwood Park on a chilly autumn afternoon. The leaves crunched under her boots as she walked the path she took every day after work. Most people avoided the park in this weather, but Emma loved the quiet. It gave her time to think. She had moved to this small town 3 months ago after losing her job in the city. The quiet life wasn't what she had planned, but it was all she could afford now. Emma still felt like a stranger here, with few friends and lonely evenings in her small flat. As she walked deeper into the park, something caught her attention. A sound that didn't belong among the rustling leaves and distant traffic. Emma stopped and listened. There it was again, a weak whimper coming from somewhere off the path. "Hello?" she called out, but only the wind answered. The sound came again, fainter this time. Emma stepped off the path, her shoes sinking slightly into the damp ground. She pushed through a cluster of bushes, following the noise. The branches scratched her hands, but she kept going. In a small clearing behind a thick oak tree, Emma found the source of the sound. Her heart nearly stopped. A small brown dog lay on its side, tied to a low branch with rough rope. The dog was thin, so thin Emma could count every rib. Its coat was matted and dirty. When it saw Emma, it tried to lift its head but couldn't find the strength. "Oh my goodness," Emma whispered, approaching slowly. The dog's eyes were cloudy with fear, but a tiny wag of its tail showed a spark of hope still lived inside. Emma knelt in the mud beside the dog. "Who did this to you?" she asked softly, reaching out her hand for the dog to sniff. The poor creature was male, she could now see, and terribly thin. He had been left here to die, alone in the cold. The dog sniffed her fingers weakly, then gave them a small lick. That tiny gesture of trust broke something in Emma's heart. "It's all right," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm going to help you." With trembling fingers, Emma examined the rope. It wasn't tight enough to choke the dog, but it kept him trapped here, unable to find food or water. How long had he been here? Days, by the look of him. Emma fumbled in her pocket for her phone. She needed help. The local animal rescue number was saved in her contacts. She had called them last month about an injured bird she'd found. "Please hold on," she told the dog as she dialed. "Help is coming." While she waited for someone to answer, Emma took off her scarf and gently wrapped it around the shivering dog. He looked up at her with eyes that seemed too human, too understanding. In them, Emma saw not just pain but a question. Why would someone do this? She had no answer. "Oakwood Animal Rescue, how can I help?" a male voice finally answered. "I've found a dog in Oakwood Park," Emma said quickly. "He's been tied to a tree and abandoned. He's in a very bad way." "Can you describe where you are exactly?" the man asked. Emma explained her location as best she could. The rescue worker, who introduced himself as Officer Thomas, promised to be there within 15 minutes. "Should I untie him?" Emma asked. "If you can do it safely, yes," Officer Thomas replied. "But be careful. Even the gentlest dogs can bite when they're scared and hurt." After hanging up, Emma spoke softly to the dog as she worked on the knot in the rope. "I don't think you'll bite me, will you? You seem like a gentleman even in these terrible circumstances." The dog watched her with those soulful eyes, offering no resistance as she finally loosened the knot. When the rope fell away, Emma saw the raw skin beneath and tears sprang to her eyes. "Who could do this?" she whispered. With extreme gentleness, Emma lifted the dog into her lap. He weighed almost nothing, a bundle of bones and dirty fur. Yet despite everything, he nuzzled against her hand, seeking comfort. "You're going to be all right now," Emma promised, stroking his head. "I found you. You're not alone anymore." As they waited for help to arrive, Emma held the dog close, sharing her warmth. For the first time since moving to this town, she felt a connection, a purpose. This little dog needed her, and somehow, she knew she needed him too. The end officer, Thomas, arrived in a white van with Oakwood Animal Rescue painted on the side. He was a tall man with kind eyes and a thick beard. He carried a pet carrier and a red emergency kit. "Over here," Emma called, still cradling the dog in her lap. She had not moved for 15 minutes, afraid to cause the poor animal any more pain. Officer Thomas rushed over, his face turning serious when he saw the dog's condition. "You did the right thing calling us," he said, kneeling beside Emma. "This little chap is in a bad way." He opened his kit and put on thin gloves. With gentle hands, he checked the dog over. Male, probably about 2 years old, some kind of terrier mix. He frowned as he felt the dog's ribs and examined his eyes. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, possibly been out here for 3 or 4 days. "Will he be okay?" Emma asked, her voice small. Officer Thomas sighed. "I won't lie to you. It's touch and go, but Dr. James at the shelter is brilliant. If anyone can save him, it's her." Together, they carefully moved the dog into the carrier. The animal was too weak to resist, but he whimpered when Emma's hands left him. "Can I come with you?" Emma asked suddenly. The thought of leaving the dog now felt impossible. Officer Thomas looked surprised but nodded. "If you want to. Not many people would care this much about a stray." "He's not just a stray," Emma said firmly. "Someone did this to him. Someone tied him to that tree and left him to die." The ride to the animal hospital was tense. Emma sat in the back of the van beside the carrier, talking softly to the dog. "You'll be all right. Dr. James will help you. You're safe now." She wasn't sure if she was comforting the dog or herself. At the animal hospital, everything happened quickly. A team in blue scrubs took the carrier and rushed the dog into a treatment room. Emma stood in the waiting area, suddenly lost. Her clothes were dirty from kneeling in the mud, and her hands were scratched from the bushes. She hadn't even noticed until now. A young woman at the front desk handed her a form. "Could you fill this out? Just what you know about how you found him." Emma nodded and took a seat. As she wrote down the details, the reality of what had happened hit her. Someone had deliberately abandoned that dog, left him to die slowly, alone, and afraid. Tears welled in her eyes, a mix of sadness and anger. An hour passed. Emma remained in her uncomfortable plastic chair, unable to leave without knowing if the dog would survive. Finally, Dr. James came out, pulling off her gloves. She was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and short gray hair. "Are you the one who found him?" she asked Emma. Emma nodded, standing up quickly. "How is he?" "He's a fighter," Dr. James said with a small smile. "We have him on fluids now, and he's stabilizing. The next 24 hours will be critical, but I think he wants to live." Relief flooded through Emma. "Can I see him?" Dr. James looked like she might refuse, but something in Emma's face changed her mind. "Just for a minute. He needs rest." The treatment room was warm and smelled of antiseptic. The dog lay on a metal table, wrapped in blankets. Tubes ran into his skinny body, and a machine beeped steadily beside him. He looked so small, so fragile. When Emma approached, his eyes flickered open. His tail moved just slightly, the tiniest wag. "He remembers you," Dr. James said softly. "That's remarkable." Emma gently stroked the dog's head, careful to avoid the EV line. "Hello there," she whispered. "You're doing so well." "He'll need somewhere to go when he's recovered," Dr. James said. "The shelter is quite full at the moment." Emma didn't hesitate. "I'll take him." Dr. James raised an eyebrow. "That's a big commitment, and he'll need special care for a while." "I know," Emma said, still looking at the dog. "But we found each other for a reason. I just moved here and don't know many people. Maybe we both need a friend." As if understanding her words, the dog licked her hand weakly. "Well, he'll be with us for at least a week," Dr. James said. "Gives you time to think about it and prepare." Emma nodded, but in her heart she had already decided. This dog would come home with her. "Does he have a name yet?" Dr. James asked, as she checked the IV. Emma thought about the tiny wag of tail, when all seemed hopeless, about the fight still left in this small, broken body. "Lucky," she said firmly. "His name is Lucky." The end. For the next week, Emma visited the animal hospital every day after work. She would sit beside Lucky's kennel, sometimes reading aloud from whatever book she was enjoying, sometimes just talking about her day. Dr. James said that the sound of a familiar voice could help with healing, and Emma wanted to do everything possible to help Lucky recover. The first 3 days were the hardest. Lucky was so weak he could barely lift his head. He slept most of the time, waking only when the nurses came to give him medicine or when Emma arrived. But each time he saw her, his tail would move just a little, and his eyes would follow her around the room. He's responding well to treatment, Dr. James told Emma on the 4th day. His blood tests are looking better, and he's keeping food down now. Emma had brought a small soft toy for Lucky, a little stuffed rabbit. She placed it in his kennel, and to everyone's surprise, Lucky pulled it close with his paw and rested, his head on it. He had a home once, Dr. James said quietly, watching this. Someone cared for him before he was abandoned. Dogs don't instinctively know how to play with toys unless they've been taught. The thought made Emma's heart ache even more. Who could have loved this sweet dog and then left him to die? By the 5th day, Lucky was strong enough to sit up when Emma arrived. His tail wagged properly now, thumping against the blankets in his kennel. The shelter staff all remarked on how quickly he was improving. "It's your visits," Nurse William told Emma as she signed in. He was a kind older man with a bushy mustache who always had dog treats in his pockets. "We see it all the time. Animals heal faster when they have something or someone to live for." Emma spent her lunch breaks researching dog care. She bought a soft bed, food bowls, a collar and lead, and several more toys. Her small flat had a tiny garden, perfect for a dog recovering from trauma who might not want long walks at first. On the 7th day, Emma arrived to find Lucky standing up in his kennel, his tail wagging furiously when he saw her. His coat was still thin, but it was cleaner now and beginning to shine. His eyes were bright and alert. "Someone's feeling better," Emma laughed, opening the kennel door to let him sniff her hand. Dr. James came in as Emma was gently scratching behind Lucky's ears. "Well," she said with a smile, "I think our patient is ready to be discharged." Emma's heart leapt. "Really? He can come home with me?" "His blood work has improved dramatically. He's eating well, and his infections have cleared up," Dr. James explained. "He'll need to continue his medicines for another 2 weeks, and he shouldn't have too much exercise at first, but yes, he's ready for a forever home." The word forever made Emma pause. This was a big step. She'd never had a pet before, and until a week ago she'd been struggling just to make connections in this new town. But when she looked at Lucky, all doubts vanished. They needed each other. "There's some paperwork," Dr. James continued, "and we'll need to do a quick home check, just standard procedure." "Of course," Emma agreed. "I've set everything up for him." While Emma filled out the adoption forms, Nurse William gave Lucky a final checkup and put a new collar on him, bright blue with a silver tag that read Lucky on one side and Emma's phone number on the other. "Every dog should have a proper collar," William said, patting Lucky's head. "Makes them feel like they belong somewhere." When all the forms were signed and the home check was arranged for that afternoon, Emma was finally allowed to take Lucky out to her car. He was still weak and thin, but he walked beside her with a tentative happiness, looking up at her every few steps as if to make sure she was still there. At the car, Emma carefully lifted him onto the passenger seat. She had laid a blanket there for comfort. Lucky turned around 3 times, then settled down with a contented sigh. "Let's go home, Lucky," Emma said, starting the engine. As they drove through the streets of the town that had felt so strange and lonely to Emma just a week ago, she glanced over at the small dog beside her. Lucky was looking out the window, his eyes bright with interest, his thin body relaxed. He seemed to understand that his nightmare was over. Emma reached over and gently touched his head. "You know what, Lucky? I think we're both going to be okay now." Lucky turned from the window and licked her hand once, a gesture of pure trust and affection. In that moment, Emma knew with certainty that finding him had changed both their lives forever. The end, the first night in Emma's flat, was difficult. Lucky was confused by his new surroundings and followed Emma everywhere, afraid to let her out of his sight. When she went to the bathroom, he sat outside the door and whined. When she tried to put him in the cozy dog bed she had bought, he trembled and looked at her with such sad eyes that she ended up letting him sleep at the foot of her own bed instead. Just for tonight, she told him as he curled up on her blanket, his small body still too thin but not shaking anymore. We need to set proper rules, but Emma's heart wasn't in the lecture. Seeing Lucky finally relax made all the trouble worthwhile. The morning Emma woke to find Lucky watching her, his head tilted to one side. When she smiled at him, his tail started wagging madly. "Good morning to you too," she laughed. The routine of caring for Lucky gave Emma's days new purpose. She would get up early to take him for a short, gentle walk, just around the garden at first, as Dr. James had advised. Then she would prepare his special food mixed with medicine, watch him eat, and get ready for work. Leaving him alone was the hardest part. The first time Emma had to go to work, Lucky barked and cried at the door. She almost called in sick but knew she couldn't do that every day. Instead, she left him with toys, a soft blanket that smelled like her, and the radio, playing quietly. When she returned home that afternoon, she found Lucky waiting by the door, the flat perfectly intact. He greeted her with such joy that Emma felt tears in her eyes. "You've been a good boy," she told him, kneeling down to hug him. "Such a good, brave boy." Each day, Lucky grew stronger. His walks got longer, first around the block, then to the small park near Emma's flat. His coat became shinier and his eyes brighter. The scared dog from the woods was disappearing, replaced by a playful, loving companion, but some scars were slower to heal. Lucky was terrified of men with deep voices. He would hide behind Emma's legs when they met male dogs during walks. And sometimes at night he would wake with a start, whimpering until Emma soothed him back to sleep. "It's okay," she would whisper, stroking his head. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you again." Emma's neighbors soon got used to seeing her with Lucky. Mrs. Bell from the flat downstairs would save bits of chicken for him, and Mr. Peter, the retired teacher from across the hall, offered to watch Lucky when Emma had to work late. "He's a special dog," Mr. Peter said one evening as he handed Lucky's lead back to Emma. "So gentle with everyone despite what he's been through." Emma agreed. Lucky had not just changed her life. He was changing the way she saw her community. Through him, she was meeting her neighbors, making friends, and feeling like she belonged. One month after bringing Lucky home, Emma took him back to the animal hospital for a checkup. Dr. James was amazed by his transformation. "I hardly recognize him," she said, examining the now healthy dog on her table. "He's gained the perfect amount of weight, his coat is beautiful, and listen to that strong heartbeat." Lucky wagged his tail at the praise, then looked at Emma as if to say, "See? I did good." Dr. James smiled at them both. "You've done wonders. With him, Emma. Some rescue dogs never fully recover from trauma like his, but Lucky, well, he's truly living up to his name." As they were leaving, they ran into Nurse William in the corridor. He stopped in amazement when he saw Lucky. "Good heavens, is that the same dog?" he asked, bending down to pet Lucky, who responded with a friendly wag. "It is," Emma said proudly. "He's doing so well now." William shook his head in wonder. "You know, we deal with sad cases every day here. It's nice to see a happy ending for once." On their way home, Emma stopped at the pet shop to buy Lucky a special treat, a new toy to celebrate his clean bill of health. As she was paying, the young man behind the counter smiled at Lucky, who was sitting patiently by Emma's side. "What a beautiful dog," he said. "Have you had him long?" "Just a month," Emma replied. "He's a rescue." The man nodded. "He seems very attached to you. Looks at you like you're his whole world." Emma glanced down at Lucky, who was indeed watching her with complete adoration in his eyes. A month ago, she had been a lonely newcomer in a strange town, and he had been a dying dog tied to a tree. Now they were a family. "The feeling is mutual," she said softly. "He's my whole world, too." The end 6 months had passed since Emma found Lucky in the woods, Both their lives had changed in ways neither could have imagined. Lucky was now a healthy, happy dog with a shiny coat and bright eyes. The only reminder of his terrible past was a small scar on his neck, where the rope had rubbed his skin raw. Emma, too, had transformed. She no longer felt like a stranger in town. She had friends, a routine, and a sense of belonging, all because of a small brown dog who had needed her as much as she needed him. One sunny Saturday morning, Emma took Lucky to Oakwood Park, the same park where she had found him tied to a tree. It was their regular weekend walk now, though they always stayed on the main paths away from that particular spot in the woods. As they walked, Lucky trotted happily beside Emma, occasionally stopping to sniff an interesting smell or wag his tail at a passing child. He was no longer afraid of strangers, though he still preferred women to men. "Emma, wait up," called a voice from behind them. Emma turned to see Richard jogging towards them. Richard worked at the local bookshop and had become a good friend over the past few months. He often joined them for weekend walks. Lucky wagged his tail when he saw Richard, a huge improvement from the days when he would hide from all men. "Sorry I'm late," Richard said, catching his breath. The shop was busy this morning. The three of them continued their walk, with Richard and Emma chatting about books and local news. Lucky walked between them, content to be part of their little group. As they passed the children's playground, Emma noticed a poster on the community board. She stopped to read it. "Look at this," she said to Richard. "The animal shelter is holding a fundraising event next weekend. They need volunteers." Richard read the poster over her shoulder. "You should do it. You and Lucky would be perfect. Your story might inspire people to adopt." Emma hadn't thought about it that way before. Could sharing Lucky's story help other abandoned animals find homes? That evening, Emma called the number on the poster and offered to help. The shelter manager, Mrs. Thompson, was delighted. "We'd love to have you and Lucky there," she said. "People need to see happy endings to understand why our work matters." The day of the fundraiser was bright and clear. The local park was filled with stalls, each representing a different animal charity. Dr. James and Nurse William had a stall for the animal hospital, with photos of animals they had saved. Emma and Lucky were given a small table near the entrance. They had made a simple display with before and after photos of Lucky, from the skinny, frightened dog in the hospital to the healthy, confident dog he was now. A sign read, "Every animal deserves a second chance." As people stopped to admire Lucky and hear his story, Emma was surprised by how many were moved to tears. Children patted him gently, asking questions about his rescue. Many visitors made donations to the shelter after meeting him. "Your dog is a natural at this," Mrs. Thompson said, watching Lucky charm everyone he met. "He seems to know exactly what we're trying to do here." By mid-afternoon, a small crowd had gathered around their table. A local reporter even came to take photos for the town newspaper. "Would you be willing to say a few words?" the reporter asked Emma. "Your story might encourage more people to adopt." Emma had never been comfortable speaking in public, but when she looked down at Lucky sitting proudly beside her, she found her courage. She stood before the gathering of townspeople and told the simple story of a walk in the park that had changed 2 lives forever. She spoke of Lucky's bravery, of the kind people at the animal hospital, and of how rescuing him had helped her find her place in the community. "When I found Lucky," she finished, "I was lonely and lost in a new town. I thought I was saving him, but the truth is we saved each other. That's the beautiful thing about rescue animals. The love goes both ways." The crowd applauded, and Lucky wagged his tail as if he understood every word. Later, as the event was ending, Dr. James came to find Emma. "You've done something remarkable today," she said. 5 families have signed up to adopt shelter dogs after hearing Lucky's story. 5 dogs who might have waited months for homes. Emma knelt down and hugged Lucky close, his warm body pressed against hers, solid and real and safe. From his lonely beginning tied to a tree, abandoned and dying, he had become not just a beloved pet, but an inspiration to others. "You see, Lucky?" she whispered in his ear. "You're changing the world one heart at a time." Lucky licked her cheek once, his eyes full of trust and love. In that moment, Emma knew that sometimes the deepest wounds can lead to the greatest healing. Not just for ourselves, but for others too. Sometimes being broken and finding the strength to mend can become the gift we give the world. The end.